So here is a relatively unexplored area of DMC2, primarily because the requirements for it are a bit odd, given the reward. So this video will cover Dante's Majin Form, or his ultimate DT, or whatever you decide to call it. It's a much stronger double trigger, considerably stronger, and the requirements for it only ask that you be near death. I don't really understand why the game rewards the player for performing poorly, but that's the way it is. So as you can see, I have pretty much no health. I should be dead, but the game still considers this within the red health section, since I probably have like a magic pixel or something. Now I'll be using PCSX2 to cover this, but all the things that I will cover in these upcoming videos are still possible on the re-released HD collection on PC and current gen consoles. So anyways, this is Majin Form. It's unique and it's never seen again. It doesn't last for particularly long, but it's incredibly strong, and it can kill most bosses with a few fireballs, even on harder difficulties. It's kind of stupid. But nonetheless, its move list is pretty unexplored because you never really see it. It's hard to come across a section in this game that's difficult enough to get you to red health. Most of the time, I end up using this form whenever I feel the need to just kill something quickly, and million stab isn't doing the trick. I just get myself down to red health, and because DT can interrupt things, or its activation rather, it's always a safe option, and you can't be killed in it. So anyways, I'm going to go over the few moves that it has. It has about 6, 7 or so, some of which I almost never see. I think some people don't even know that it exists. So we'll go over that really quickly. On the ground, he has a 5-hit string or combo. It depletes half of your DT gauge when you're not hitting anything. This isn't something you'd ever really use. Typically, if you're going to be in Majin Form to take something out, you'd be using the fireballs. At this current point in time, with this save data that I have, and the amount of DT and meter that I have, I can get a total of 16 fireballs. That can kill anything. Absolutely anything. So it's very strong, and as you increase your DT, of course you get, more fireballs to toss out. I'm not actually sure how many or how much it depletes. Looks like about like 10, maybe 15%. I'm just tossing out numbers here. It's just an assumption, but nonetheless, I don't have any real numbers here with me. So that's that string, right? There's nothing really particularly special about it. It does a lot of damage, and obviously the hitbox on it is enormous, as the blades are equally as large. It's okay. There are just better ways to go about using this DT. Next is the move that replaces Helmet Breaker. Also understand that all these are unnamed. I really don't know what to call them. So this is just a weird-ass twirling Helmet Breaker to me. I have not actually used this on bosses, but it's probably something I should try. I'd like to see how much damage everything does, but again, at the end of the day, it just makes more sense to just shoot fireballs, and then as soon as you're about to run out of DT, you just use one of Majin Form's super moves, which I will cover after his base move list. So that's that. All you do is, if you're not in air raid being the flight mode, you just push melee, and you get this. And depending on how much height you have, it'll just continue. It'll just keep going, to my knowledge. So it's somewhat reminiscent of Rainstorm, except it's melee. Next is a sort of pseudo aerial rave type of deal. It's only available in air raid. Did I say air raid twice? Aerial rave is what I meant to say. This is only available in air raid during flight. It hits twice. I don't know how much damage it does, as I don't have any enemies with me right now. But it depletes the meter relatively quickly. Again, you'll find that's pretty common amongst all the characters in this game, is that their DT moves tend to deplete meter really quickly. There's really not a whole lot to say about it, honestly. It's exactly what it looks like. It's pretty self-explanatory. It just hits twice. It covers a lot of space, reaches pretty far. That's all there is to it, really. This is a more interesting move. This is somewhat reminiscent of the last hit that Virgil has on Force Edge Combo B, I think, in 4SC, where he twirls around. All you do is you just jump forward, and you push melee. That's all there is to it. I'm not sure if height affects this. Let's find out. There are still things that I don't understand about this game. It looks like it might actually just keep going until you hit the ground. Let's see. Definitely. So there's that. And I would assume the same goes for the move that replaces Helmet Breaker. It just keeps going depending on the height that you're at. Next is something that I know for a fact a lot of people are not aware of. And I don't blame them. The game doesn't explain any of this. It doesn't tell you that any of this exists. I don't even know if the strategy guide explains that this exists. But every character has this. Trish has Vortex from DMC1. Lucia has like a heavy rain type of deal. And she also has Drive. Dante only gets those special moves, or those super moves rather, in Majin form. And I'll show off what those are. So he gets two. He gets a Beam Super and he gets a Burst. This is what the Burst looks like. And as you can see, it depletes the meter entirely. I'll go into that a little bit further in a second. And the next one is his Beam Super. This will auto-target things, and it can only be done with lock-on. The way that these super moves are done is by pressing shoot and melee at the same time. It's an awful input, I know it is, but that's the way it's done. So the thing about these super moves is that they look fantastic. Right? It's like, oh great, you know, that's a bunch of damage, and in a game where projectiles are already as strong as they are, this must be really good, right? Hell no. This does no damage, comparatively. The amount of damage that you can dish out as Majin Dante by not using super moves is significantly more than you would ever get from just throwing out like a raw super. So, the ideal or optimal way of using something like this would be to activate Majin and deplete your meter all the way down. You know, you use whatever you can and manage your resources accordingly. And then once you reach that point in your DT where you almost have nothing left, that's when you use your super move. It's exactly the same as using Judgment Cut End in 4SE, where the requirement for Judgment Cut End is 4 bars, or 4 DT runes, whatever you decide to call it. I just say bars, because that's the way I see it. But typically, you'd want to get as much damage as you can just using the normal moves that he has available to him, and then afterwards using your super. That seems to be the very best and optimal way that I have found so far to use Majin form. But that's about all there is to it. The only other move that he has in Majin is his fireballs, and these are kind of stupidly strong. I'm not sure if they have splash damage, but if it directly hits anything, that anything is dead within like 1 to 2. It's kind of absurd. But that's really all there is to Majin Dante. Surprising amount of stuff considering you barely ever get to see this. I might cover the other characters as well, but I figured since this is such a unexplored area of this game, and the game in itself is relatively unexplored, due to the backlash that it received. But either way, I thought it would be somewhat interesting to kind of showcase the things that Majin Form has to offer that most people probably have never seen before. So that's all I got. Hopefully you guys learned something.